Welcome into this week's Ask Mike. Alyssa Orange alongside Mike Irwin, stepping in today for Courtney Mims. She is on assignment. It's good to be back in this chair.
Are you?
Alyssa, good to meet you. It's been a long time. We've only worked together for 11 years, but I'm happy to be back in the chair.
Show.
I feel like, I guess I've been really missing hosting Ask Mike because I've been screaming answers from afar in my seat while I'm working on the show.
You've been doing that.
So I booted Courtney and I'm here. I'm kidding. She's really on assignment. She'll be back next week, but I'm happy to be here because we've got a lot to talk about. Hope you guys enjoyed the first week of the NCAA tournament, and that's where we start. Our first question is from Mousetown, who wants to know what happened to Auburn and Kentucky. What it tells me is that Arkansas is not the only high expectation teams that can blow it. They got farther than we did, but tell that to their fans who are going bonkers on the internet.
You know, that's kind of a point I've been trying to make on X, and some people still don't get it. But here's the way this thing works. The more expectations you have, the higher those expectations are, the harder it is to take when you don't achieve. Now, I think there are degrees. I think if Auburn, for instance, had gone 2 or 3 games into it, it wouldn't have been as bad. But when you are Bruce Pearl, and you start telling everybody while the SEC tournament is in progress, our goal is to win the next 9 postseason games. That would be 3 in the SEC tournament and then 6 in the NCAAs. And so you set that expectation, and then you get 3, and that's it. It's a bigger kick in the butt to me than if you never went. That's just the way I look at it. And I'm telling you, I've all throughout my life, even going all the way back to high school, I've been around people that were on teams that were supposed to win big and they didn't, and they feel horrible about it. Worse than I did when I was on a team that played them and we didn't beat them because we didn't have those expectations. So the thing with Auburn didn't surprise me because I think it's a curse to win your SEC tournament or any conference tournament and then try to turn around. I'm not saying it never happens. Arkansas didn't do it when they won a national championship. Here's what happens. It's a mini NCAA tournament. You win 3 games in 3 days, and then what do? When you've done it, you sit back and go, wow, we're the best in the SEC. We just went right through there and beat all those. We're the best. We're going to represent our conference. And then you go back, and you have to reset because it's 0-0 after that. And you're going to play a 13 or a 14 seed, and your players are going to sit there and think, these guys aren't as good as the ones we just beat. We can win this game, and then you find out you can't. Now, they had their chances. We saw it at the end. They had a layup to tie the game and send it into overtime. It didn't go. They got a rebound. That shot was blocked. It came back, and they still had time to kick it back out for a 3 that would win the game, and it just didn't go. Guess what? That happens in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. So that's what happened to them. Now, the thing with Kentucky is bizarre because I thought they were set up. They'd won all these games. I mean, they beat Tennessee at Tennessee. They won a whole series of games toward the end. And then they lost to A&M in the first round of the SEC tournament. I'm thinking, great. This lets you go home, not worry about that, and start thinking about the tournament. And they'll start over. It's easier to start over when you do that, when you do fall short in that conference tournament. But what was Calipari doing? The Oakland team that he played, the one thing you have to worry about is 3-point shooting. I mean, they shot almost 50% from 3. And
one guy had 10.
And they had one player that hit 10, and it's not like you couldn't look on the scouting report and see that he does that stuff. Yeah. What was that? And then they got out-rebounded. I don't even understand how that happens.
Yeah, I saw a tweet after Virginia lost and in the first 4, and it was like Virginia, it might have been Kentucky. It was like 4 schools who have won a national championship recently that have yet to get out of the first weekend of the tournament. It's just hard to win the NCAA tournament. And I think that just goes back to even Arkansas winning it back-to-back. The last team to do it right now was Florida, and that was, what, 05, 06, or 06, 07? It is hard to win back-to-back-to-back. And so it's tough. And it's a microcosm of what you're doing. You look at Texas A&M, who Arkansas beat twice during the regular season, and my husband and I were talking, and we're like, well, logically, this is a team Arkansas beat twice, and they're playing so well. I mean, they took Houston to OT last night. So It is what it is, but it's wild and it's crazy, and it's why people love March
And
so
no
much.
one should ever be surprised by anything. Now, the one thing about the tournament so far is this is a rare year in which the 1 and 2 seeds from each of the 4 regions made it to the Sweet 16. That almost never happens.
Yeah.
So the upsets haven't been at the top. They've been down below. And what I think that means is when you get those 1 and 2 seeds that have gone this far, usually the upsets stop after that anyway. I think we're going to have a heck of a tournament from here on out.
I don't know if this was a question for you, and maybe I'll put it in Ask Mike Undercover next week, because it's something that everyone's talking about these mid-major teams who are in the tournament, like Yale. And Yale's coach said, look, Princeton was the best team in the country in our league last year, or we were the best team in our league last year. Princeton won the tournament, so they got in the NCAA tournament. Princeton was the best team 2 years ago, but we beat them, so we were in. Where really, us and Princeton could have probably come into the tournament and done some stuff. And then you look at a JMU. If you don't win the Sun Belt, are you an at-large? The process of those mid-major teams, and then the upsets that we see and the parity we see with some of these middle-of-the-pack seedings, it's just very interesting about how they could possibly change it to be a little bit more equal. And I know Greg Sankey's gotten a lot of heat for what he said. So it's not a question. I will save it for next week, but I'll let you have it and think about it for a little bit.
Corey Beck gave me the best explanation that I've ever gotten from anybody about why there's all these upsets. And he said, here's the thing. You've gone through the entire season. You know how good you are. You know you're better than your opponent. But he said, when you line up out on the floor, it's live or die. And you suddenly know it, and they know it. You know that from now on, if you lose a game, your season is over. And he said people fight like crazy to avoid that.
It's not about what you've done the whole season. Sure, that's how you get into the tournament. You don't have to be better than for 40-some games. You just have to be better than them for 40 minutes.
That's right.
So,
but people forget that.
Yeah. All right. Marty Berg's proxy asks, are Muss and the U of A in negotiations on an extension? Him and everyone else wants to know, does the SMU talk have legs?
Okay, as far as the extension thing, I mean, I was told by a source a month ago that he had not signed an extension. But there's been no comment from the athletic department about that. So until we get one, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know where that stands. There's a million rumors rolling around. He was going to Louisville. He's looking at SMU. People are now saying, well, yeah, but like he's bringing in some portal guys this week, and therefore it must be over if he's bringing. I would remember you brought this up. Somebody did. Tom Tuberville was sitting in a restaurant in Lubbock with a recruit on a recruiting visit when he got a call to go to where was it? Cincinnati.
He took the Cincinnati job. He just
And
left him.
He got up and went said he had to go to the restroom, went to the restroom, climbed out the window, and they never saw him again. That's an extreme example, but just because you're recruiting doesn't mean you can't leave. And so who knows, something should happen soon, I would think. I may be different from other people, but somebody told me last night, they said, well, Musselman didn't talk for a month after last year's final game. He's working. He doesn't have to say anything. I said, last year there weren't a million rumors that he was taking another job. At some point, in my opinion, somebody over there, whether it's Yurachek or Musselman or somebody, should tell people something, because it's not fair to the fans. It's insulting. They are the ones, you don't have squat without your fans. You don't have that arena. You don't have games. You have nothing without fans. Why are they treated this way? Why are they supposed to just sit here for day after day after day after day and wonder, do we have a coach or not? Don't you think that's terrible?
Well, yeah. Yes, I understand what you're coming from. I think sometimes Arkansas fans in general, because it's not Arkansas, it's everybody. You look at Louisville and the situation and how they treated Reggie Payne, and he's an alum who won them a national title, and I get that it didn't work, but they just ripped him to shreds. And he was supposed to be one of your own. And so sometimes you also have to remember like how you also act. But you're a fan, and I get that. I'm sure a lot of people would love for him to have come out and reiterate his confidence at being at Arkansas and why he wants to be here. But he doesn't have to. You're right. He doesn't have to. So you just are kind of in between, a
I
rock and a
just think
hard
he
place
should.
with that.
I think he should. That doesn't mean he has to.
I know what you mean. All right. Mike Neighbors, Hogtied 85 says, Mike Neighbors, love him or not so much, it just isn't working out here. It's a problem with multiple players transfer out year after year. Those players go off and be great elsewhere. No one asks why, nor is it addressed.
And there are no examples of someone going off and becoming great somewhere else.
I got my highlighter and I got my paper to defend this a little bit. I'll let you have your answer. But I think we should put some context on the women's basketball team when you're done.
Well, I mean, he basically, to me, in an interview he did before they played in Tulsa, played their postseason game in Tulsa, he said, look, I've been taking the wrong approach. I've been recruiting freshmen and trying to develop them, and I've lost some of them. And he said, I finally realized that it's a lot easier to do the other way around. Everybody's doing that. Musselman's doing it. Pittman has said, I don't want to do this, but the transfer portal is a better guarantee of current success. So he said, I've seen the light. From here, I've already started. He said, I've already started going after portal transfers. Mm-hmm. If you get the right portal transfers, mm-hmm. and he's already brought in one of the top guards in the portal who's scoring a lot of points a game, so he's made that first right move. Now he has to go maybe get some size. Mm-hmm. But if you get the right people through the portal, you can solve a lot of problems very quickly, and he's been trying to do it the other way, and he said, I made a mistake.
Yeah, and I asked him after that Tulsa loss, what do you need? And he said, I need depth. And that's it. He got that guard, and he goes, the first thing I said to her and her parents when I got on the phone with her is I made a mistake. He goes, I'm not going to say what she said back, but he didn't recruit her. She went to Missouri first, and then Arkansas State. Now she's coming to Arkansas. And they have this Phoenix Stojan who has come in from the Netherlands, who I am hearing really good things of. She might be the best player, but she couldn't play because she just came in. She was playing professionally. So they have her. And he understands. Jersey Wolfenbarger, he has taken full ownership on what happened with that situation. I think a lot of things out of his control led to Talia Scott. I don't know much about Saylor Poffenbarger's situation, so I'm not comfortable speaking on that, and same with Talia. But I also think, too, there's a lot more there than people assume. But when you say people are transferring out and going on to go out and have success, that's not 100% accurate. And I brought some papers because I think most recently you look at Erin Barnum, who was successful here when she was here last season, led the team averaging 15 points a game and 6.5 rebounds a game. So she goes to Mississippi State, and at Mississippi State, she is averaging 9.4 points a game and 5.7 rebounds a game. So her production went down at Mississippi State. And then you look at Marquisha Davis, who's from here in Springdale, who transferred to Ole Miss, and Alana Eaton, who was also at Ole Miss. Now, Marquisha Davis averaged 14.3 points a game for the Rebels this year. She leads the team in scoring. So she did get better, but she was here a freshman and sophomore year. Well, who else was there on the freshman when she was a freshman and a sophomore when she was only averaging 5.9 points a game? Well, Amber Ramirez, Michaela Daniels, Sam Spencer, Sasha Goforth, Erin Barnum. Or how about the year before that when she was a freshman? Chelsea Dungy, Alexis Tolfree, Amber Ramirez, Michaela Daniels, Atiana Golden, Talia Thomas. It was more about where you put her and not necessarily what they were doing. And so I think that that's really important to say. As a freshman and a sophomore, she was playing behind some really, really talented players, and then she decided to go somewhere else. And that's what you're talking about. Erin Barnum, NIL. And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And you got to think about that too. When Mike Neighbors was able to bring in Alexis Tolfree out of JUCO, and Amber Ramirez from TCU, and Chelsea Dungy from Oklahoma, and Destiny Slocum from Oregon State, and Sasha Goforth from Oregon State, NIL didn't exist. It was about common play for this program, for me, for my coaching staff, and that's what you could sell. But you got NIL now is a big part of that, and we know that it's not just affecting Arkansas women's basketball, it's affecting every sport in every school across the country. Right. So there's a lot of context there that I think you really have to look into, and I understand the wins and the losses in the team and all of those things, and you wish things could have ended better than they did. you look at Mike Neighbors and what he's done in the SEC as his record compared to everybody else, and he's been above 500 in SEC play longer than any other coach in program history. And that includes Gary Blair.
Okay.
There's my soapbox. That's it. That's all you're getting from me today.
Okay.
Okay. Lizzie Lemon wants to know, what do fans value? Winning over building good character men, or off-the-court impact over winning?
And the easy answer is most people, I think, would tell you, we want both. And they think you can have both, but the obvious answer is you can't have both. A lot of times you're not getting both. So if they were being honest, I think most fans would say, yeah, I want to win. But there is an issue here. And we're going to talk about one of those issues later on when we talk about Kim Mulkey. But the fact is, there are coaches out there, men on the men's side and the women's side, that are not nice people. And they don't necessarily turn you into a better human being when you leave. They do win. And what I find is hypocritical is this. A school knows you do these things, but they don't do anything about it until you don't win anymore or win as much as they think. And then all of a sudden, oh, he's a bad person. We got to run him off. He did all these terrible things. Woody Hayes, this goes back way beyond most people remember. Woody Hayes was a complete jerk of a football coach for decades. He finally got fired for running out on the field and hitting a player that had gotten a key interception in a bowl game, which sealed the win for the other team. In other words, you just beat us, I'm going to hit you. Okay, he'd been doing stupid stuff like that all along, but he wasn't winning anymore. So then it's like, we got to fire you. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There are schools that will put up with that as long as you're winning. But the minute you stop winning, they use that behavior as an excuse for firing you when that behavior was there all along.
Yeah, you know, I think this is an interesting, because we've seen these questions and these interviews during March Madness. We all sat at home watching a lot of basketball over the couple of days. And you had a guy like Wade Taylor, and the first thing he says about Buzz Williams after they win that first game on Friday is I would not be the man that I am off of the court without Buzz Williams. And I think Rick Barnes is another example that you in here, that Rick Barnes is very, very invested in the growth of his players on and off the court. The first thing he said when they beat Texas was, I have a lot of respect for that staff and I have a lot of respect for that university. Talking about Texas.
Right.
He didn't have to say that. They fired him.
Right.
And he didn't have to say that. And so you look at the Yale coach and these interviews, and so it's in the limelight right now in this moment, and people are seeing these coaches that are like, wow, that looks like a great human. The Long Beach State head coach, who literally was told he was going to get let go, and then they made it to the tournament, and he just had this attitude and this, he chose to take something negative that had happened to him and make sure that he remained positive for his team. And so that's what you're seeing right now, and I think that's where this question comes from, of where's the value of leaving a place like Arkansas, since we're here, better than when you got here? And how important is that for these head coaches of, have you left better from this program after a year, 2 years, whatever, a better person than when you got here?
And I think we could name some coaches like that. Dave Van Horn, I think you would have his players all say that. Lance Harder, I think on the women's track team
Courtney
would say.
Deifel.
Yeah, Deifel. There's some.
A lot.
I don't think you're going to get a lot of that for Musselman. He's a mean guy. He really is. That's his reputation. I don't have an issue with that because I played for mean guys, and they still made me better. They didn't make me better by being nice to me. I don't know. Maybe there's something about me. If you treat me mean, it helps me. I don't know.
So it's all about motivation, right?
I tell you what helped me more than anything else, and it took a long time, having grandkids. Grandkids make you nicer because you've had all this time dealing with your crazy kids and driving you nuts and all this stuff. Then grandkids come along and they're just grandkids.
That's funny.
You're cool.
You know, it's funny you say that because my mom always tells me that my dad's dad, he was in the Air Force. He was hard on my dad, and he was rough around the edges, I think. And then my mom says you came along, and he just changed.
It changes everything.
It's crazy.
So maybe Musselman needs to be a grandpa. Is he?
I'm not going down that road. Okay, that is not any of my business. All right, here we go. WH Hog Fan says, I feel that athletes should not be allowed to enter the portal until their season is completely over, like Ladybacks leaving the team before the NBIT game. Should my attitude be that teams' needs are more important than individual needs, or should it be good riddance to you if you don't want to be on our team?
You can have whatever attitude you want. It's difficult. I think, and I see it a lot of times. I see when a athlete leaves Arkansas, you see these people come on the internet and say, "I wish you well wherever you go," and then you'll get some that are mad at them. I think there's something now that goes beyond that, beyond the normal transfer, and it's this portal NIL stuff combined, because fans are upset because they see these people come in, they get NIL money, and then if they're successful, oh, I get more NIL money, I'll go over here. And so that's the part that has to change. That's the part that's bad. And I was talking to Courtney, and she looked it up. It looks like the unlimited transfer, or 2 transfers or whatever that came in as a result of COVID, that's due to go away after this year. So supposedly, next year, you will only have one transfer without penalty, and then if you do it again, you have to sit out. Here's the problem with that, Alyssa. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, because every time the NCAA tries to enforce a rule like that now, they get sued, and they generally win, or at least it looks like they're winning. A court will put an injunction. So who knows how long this is going to go on. But I noticed that Bob Stoops was the latest football coach to come out and sort of echo what Nick Saban did a couple of weeks ago. He's basically saying, we've got to put these players under contract. We'll guarantee them a certain amount of money, and then as a result of that, they got to sign a contract that say, you get an NIL money here. You can't just walk out on us. You couldn't do that in the NFL. You couldn't do that in Major League Baseball. You signed a contract, so you're here. As long as you agree to that, we want you and you want you. So maybe there has to be something like that.
Maybe. I think with this question specifically, like not being able to be allowed to enter the portal until their season is over, that's a portal window thing.
It
is. Because
is.
the portal window opened on Monday.
They could solve that.
Right? And so you change the portal window, until everybody is done.
Yes, they could solve that easily.
Now, you've got teams who didn't make the playoffs or postseason who have to wait. But then now you've got coaches, you've got players who are all now focused. I can focus on my team, right? I can focus on my team throughout this time period, and then this transfer portal window opens, and then I can now focus on that, as opposed to the window's now open. And I know Muss dealt with this the last couple of years, and so have football coaches, where the window is open now, but you're now playing for a bowl game, or you're playing in the NCAA tournament, and guys are leaving, but then guys are in the portal. And so now I can't focus on bowl prep or NCAA tournament prep, because I want to make sure I get the best guy who's in the portal right now, though I don't know if I have it is such kind of a mess. And you would think, okay, maybe we can do it to where there's absolutely nothing going on, and now there's a portal, and now everyone can hit it, and it doesn't cause any kind of these ripple effects like this guy's wondering. But that's a portal opening window, and that's an NCAA thing. So they'd really have to, I think, start there and have to change those windows. All right, next question. Go Hogs says, I wanted to be able to say that that you two. All right, I'm gonna start. I wanted you to be able to say that 2 more folks whose love collegiate sports is slowly fading. How big of a fan are we? We were born and raised in Arkansas. We are UA class of 71 graduates, Arkansas Alumni Association life members, and current Arkansas Foundation supporters and football season ticket holders. NIL and the portal is driving us away.
This sort of feeling is very common among people my age. I talk to people my age, people I grew up with, people I know that are fans, not just here, but back in Lubbock. I got a lot of friends who are Texas Tech fans. And this is a very common among people in their 60s and 70s. They're not dealing with this as well as others are. I don't know why. One guy said to me, I've just reached a point in my life where I don't want to fool around with this stuff. I don't like what is happening, and there are other things I can do with my life. I don't like the idea that people are running around saying athletes have been getting taken advantage of, when what are we talking about here? They're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids trying to move up in life. They're getting a free education. They're getting extra money. They always have been under this new scholarship thing that's been in place for 10 or 12 years, $1,000 a month. They get room and board. And he said, when I think back to when I wanted to get a college scholarship, wanted to play college football and couldn't, and I'm looking at some of these people and they say they're being taken advantage of, I wish I could go back in time, be a better athlete myself and say, take advantage of me. I willingly allow you to do that. So that's the attitude of people, my generation. We look at that and we say, what's wrong with your situation? Yes, the athletic department's making a lot of money. The people that are making money, the ADs, the head coaches, the people that work in there, they're all people that got their education, went out, got a job, got another job, and then got themselves into a position where they're making good money. You can do that too with your degree. It might take 10 or 15 years, but you want it now. And then you get the other people saying, yeah, but we're generating millions of dollars in money and we need to get part of it. So I don't know that there's an answer to any of this. It's a generation gap thing.
Yeah. All right, Pig's Feet asks, is Arkansas really so poor that they can't compete with NIL, or is it a case of can't get blood from a turnip?
I'm not sure because, again, I said last week that really Hunter Yurachek should have a press conference and explain NIL because I'm telling you, when I talk to Razorback fans, they are all over the map on NIL. Most of them don't know what's going on right now. And so you have a lot of people whose attitude is, you want more money from me? I'm already buying season tickets. I'm already making contributions. I'm already making contributions to the foundation. And now you want me to give more? What for? Explain this to me. But then in the last week or two, I've started to get a little bit more information. Mm-hmm. And the information is it's not as serious as you may think it is. Mm-hmm. Arkansas is not that in big a trouble, but the consensus that I get seems to be that Arkansas, when NIL first started, tried to do it the way the NCAA had it laid out. Mm. They were idealistic. And so their attitude was, hey, come here, we'll hook you up with an agent, you can get your own NIL deal. They weren't doing a lot of, stuff, you come here and you'll get something automatically. And this grass level, entry level mm-hmm. stuff that we're seeing now that Ole Miss is doing so well and Missouri's doing so well, that they were behind on that, but they're going to catch up. So mm-hmm. we'll see. I don't know. I do think, I said this may have come from me when I said a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people are looking at this and going, I don't like this idea. I'm not giving you squat until you explain it better to me.
Yeah, the word poor, Arkansas really so poor as a state in a whole. We've got another question about it, but I'm really, really interested. And hey, Jules, I'm going to phone a friend here. Jules, can you print me out a list of the state rankings in wealth for me?
I can tell you right off the bat that Mississippi is at the bottom.
And that's my point, and I want to look at like the latest numbers because that's what I'm saying. Whippersnapper here, as we get into our next question, says the poorness of the state is starting to show up on our lack of NIL funds. Are we, as a state, now saying bye-bye to having a chance to even compete against the rest of the SEC in the two major sports of football and basketball? And I think the confusion here a little bit lies in the state and Arkansas fans.
Right.
And so I want to see that list because you talk about your LSUs and your Mississippis and all of that stuff, Alabama, where they rank versus what the perception of their NIL looks like, as opposed to this is Arkansas fans not understanding the lack of transparency with the NIL.
Well, I had a conversation with somebody who's not an Arkansas fan the other day, and he's from out of state, but he's lived here a long time. Mm-hmm. And this is what he said. He said, what you really need to talk about is the collective part. That's fairly new. But he said, look what Ole Miss is doing with its NIL collective. Look what Missouri's doing with its collective. Now, what does that mean? It means instead of going to your big boosters and saying, give me $2 million this year, you're just saying to the average guys, might not even be a season ticket holder, might not give money to the foundation, but you're saying, hey, give me anything you can. Give us $20 this week, maybe a month from now, $30. And he said, Arkansas, because they have no major competition in state, they own the state when it comes to athletics, and that's not totally true, but it's true throughout the state. He said the potential for NIL money in that way is unlimited in this state. He said it doesn't have anything to do with being poor. You've got committed fans all over this state. If you can just explain it to them and what they're doing, and they can give a little bit here and a little bit there, collectively together, they can create the kind of NIL that Arkansas needs. So, I mean, that's a little more positive. I got the sense from these two questions that people think Arkansas is just, they're dead now.
Why do they think that?
Well, some of it probably came from me, who 2 or 3 weeks ago was saying it looked really bad because I was being told that. But then people tell you different things at different times. I think you get told something for shock value, and then they come back and they kind of give you more of the reality. And again, what somebody told me about a week ago was they said Arkansas just got behind because they started doing it the traditional way when other schools were already doing the collectives and raising money that way, and it's just going to take them a little while to catch up. But they'll be there.
Okay, all right, that's good. Good insight again. And I think this is the biggest thing is you hear stuff. Fans come up to you and say things. Fans come up to me and say things. Fans come up to Courtney and say things because that's the reality that they live in. Mm-hmm. And none of us have answers to give them. And they're just like, we don't know what this means. And we're like, man, we don't know what it means either.
NIL, you know? There's a lot of confusion over NIL.
Yeah, and so that's where you leave us with a whole bunch of I don't know. Speaking of I don't knows, Ralph Thompson wants to know, is Kim Mulkey covering up something? Sounds like she's doing damage control in advance of a newspaper hit piece on her. I've always thought she was a jerk, but a jerk that wins. Maybe we need a jerk.
Nobody knows for sure till it happens. This is what I suspect is going on. I suspect the Washington Post got involved initially because she was very politically incorrect during the COVID thing. She was saying, hey, we don't need all these restrictions. What are you doing? And they may have gotten mad at her back then for something, so they started looking into her. And then I also think what's going on here is she left Baylor in a lurch and just suddenly went to LSU. The Baylor people can't be happy. So they may be talking to the Washington Post. So what are they talking to them about? I'm guessing it's that Kim Mulkey's not real nice. She's got a history of getting mad, yelling at people, yelling at other coaches, yelling at players, yelling at fans. It happens. It's what we were talking about before. I hate to try and explain this to some people, but there are plenty of coaches out there that are really nice and win, and there are plenty of them that are jerks and win. And the bottom line is, I promise you, whatever they write, unless they uncover some information that she murdered somebody, which I seriously doubt, I don't think anything they write about is going to impact her at LSU because they like what she's doing. So we'll see. We'll see if they have some blockbuster, oh, she got mad in a locker room and swung at a girl and missed her, but if she had hit her, it would have been really terrible. Or she yelled at somebody and they ended up with emotional problems. I mean, who knows what this is? But it apparently is concerning enough that she keeps referring to it. It's like she's kind of preparing everybody for it, like, hey, this is coming. Mm-hmm. And and she says weird things like she didn't have enough time to prepare for it, but then she does have enough time. So another one of these things where people just sit around going, I wonder when the Mulkey story is going to come out.
we all were sitting around wondering when the Mulkey story is going to come out. So again, it's interesting, and you know, like it or not, think it's fair or not, the Washington Post has a right to publish what they want to. The Athletic, the New York Times, the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I mean, you know what I mean, as a newspaper. So I'm very, very interested to see kind of what goes into this. And speaking of Kim Mulkey, she didn't scare away Jersey Wolfenbarger because
nope, Jersey was grinning.
There we go. All right. Texas Diamond Hog says, you've been telling us that there would come a game when the pitching would not bail us out. Guess that time was Sunday against Auburn. We won the series, but they scored 13 total runs just like we did. Got to get this offense going.
Yeah, I wouldn't make too much out of that. I mean, I'm telling you, if you look around the league, very few sweeps, and most of the time, if you can go on the road and win 2 of 3. Now, I think there were some people that would disrespect Auburn a little bit without looking at they had an 11-2 record at home going into that series. They weren't dog meat. They were ranked. They had beaten another ranked team. So it wasn't a bad team, and as we saw, they hit pretty well, they pitched pretty well. They just didn't. Arkansas's pitching was so amazing in those first 2 games. I think we also have to look at the fact that the 2 of the 3 losses came on a Sunday, and in both cases you had the bullpen kind of give a big inning. In the James Madison game, it was the 7th inning and they gave up 4 runs. In this one, it was the 6th and they gave up 6 runs. I think some things may have happened in that game that they haven't that they'll look at and maybe change a little bit. They had a freshman and a sophomore pitch twice over the weekend, and I'm not sure that either. I'm sure the freshman has never been on the road pitching. Not sure about the sophomore, Cooper Dossett, but that sometimes is different. You get on the road, you're on the road for the first time in the SEC in an opposing stadium, and there were a lot of people there. It wasn't just empty on Sunday or Saturday especially. So I'm just not that concerned. I felt like they did enough offensively to win the game. This one wasn't on the, they left some guys on base like they typically do, but I felt like this one was on the bullpen, and I don't think you're going to have that happen a lot.
Yeah. All right. LSU coming to town, by the way, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah,
always good. You know, and you know what? Maybe this is another one that I'll just hide under the disguise of some other question. But you know, this could be the last time, and who knows when that Arkansas will play LSU in baseball because we've got the new scheduling and the way that it goes, and LSU's not a permanent opponent for Arkansas anymore in baseball, which I don't like. So
we'll see.
We'll see. It'll be fun. All right. S. Giles asks, how much longer do you expect Dave Van Horn to coach? I hope it will be long enough for us to see his triplets become bat boys and a bat girl at Baum Walker Stadium.
I think that would be like 14 or 15 more years. I don't expect that.
I don't know. Clay Goodwin's son runs around a lot, and he's younger. He might be older now, but he has been
we
around
might
for a
see
while,
that
you know?
in 7 or 8 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
Look, I will say this. I think, as I said before, I think Dave Van Horn will be a better coach now that he's a grandpa, because I think being a grandpa makes you a better person. He's still going to be able to coach, but he'll be more understanding and more in line with the way today's players are. You know, you got to understand me.
Sure.
And so I think it'll help him. I'm good. I'm glad this happened. I think he's happy.
Did you see the speech that he gave outside the bus on the internet?
Yes.
And he was like, I'm not going to get emotional. And then they cut, because I think Dave got emotional.
He got emotional. I mean,
that's a big deal. Very first grandkids.
Yeah, I can still remember the first time.
Triplets, I can't imagine.
I remember my first time, and it wasn't triplets. I don't even
3
know
of
what
them.
that would be like.
And look, everyone knows who's had multiples, experience with multiples. Even my son, who was not a multiple, was a month early, spent time in the NICU. These babies are still in the hospital. They still got some growing to do.
Right.
So it's all hands on deck. You said it in our interview that those first couple of months, year to however, it's all hands on deck for Karen, his wife, and his daughter, and his daughters, and her husband, and their families. And so they've got a long road, I think, before we really see the twins or the triplets. And you know, they mature enough to where they can leave the hospital, but it's really exciting.
Want to see them at the ballpark.
They'll get there. You know they will.
Yeah, sure.
Omaha.
Okay.
We'll see them in Omaha, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. That's a lot. I mean, can you imagine having packed for 3 babies? Probably not. Ugh. Power to you, Alan. All right. That's going to do it for this week's Ask Mike. We'll see you next week.